Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Let's learn with Lizzie. Today we are going to study a very interesting and entertaining poem that actually carries a serious message beneath its humor, and that's The Tale of Custard the Dragon by Ogden Nash. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Do you think the loudest and most boastful person is always the bravest? Or sometimes the quietest person turns out to be the real hero? This poem explores exactly that idea. Although it looks like a light, funny poem about pets and a dragon, it actually teaches us what real courage is, why appearances can be misleading, and how humility makes someone truly heroic. For an exam perspective, this poem is important because it combines humor, irony, character contrast, and poetic devices in a very accessible way. Let's first understand the poet because his unique style shapes the entire poem. The poet Ogden Nash was famous for humorous poetry. His style is very distinctive. Unlike traditional poets who followed strict poetic rules, he often used playful language, unexpected rhymes, everyday conversational tone, but don't mistake humor for lack of depth. In fact, humor makes his observation about human nature sharper and more memorable. In this poem, specifically, humor helps him show how people often pretend to be brave, judge others wrongly, and only recognize true courage after a crisis. This is a key exam insight. Now, let's understand what kind of poem this is. This poem is written as a ballad. A ballad is usually a narrative poem with rhythm and rhyme telling a story, often about heroes or adventure. But here, the poet adds humor and irony instead of a typical heroic warrior. We get a dragon who appears cowardly but later becomes heroic. This makes the poem both entertaining and thought provoking. From a board exam viewpoint, always mention it is a humorous ballad highlighting real versus false bravery. Now let's meet the characters because understanding them helps decode the poem's message. Belinda, who is a brave little girl, Ink, the black kitten, Blink, the grey mouse, Mustard, the yellow dog, Custard, pet dragon who is called Coward, and the pirate who is the villain of the poem. Belinda lives with several pets. Each pet symbolizes exaggerated bravery. The kitten and mouse are shown as lion chasers. The dog is portrayed as fierce. Belinda herself is described as extremely brave. And then we have Custard, who is a dragon, traditionally a symbol of strength. But here comes the irony. He is labeled as a coward. This contrast is central to the poem's humor and message. Now let's begin stanza by stanza explanation. The poet introduces Belinda's small house and her pets. Notice the repeated use of the word little. This creates a cozy atmosphere, a fairy tale feel, a very playful tone in the poem. And suddenly, then a dragon appears. But instead of frightening us, the poet uses humorous language like Rilio Trilio. This signals clearly the poem should be read with humor. Here, the word Rilio Trilio means really, truly. Next, we see how each pet gets its identity. Each pet is named and described in a very funny way. There is Ink, who is a black kitten, Blink, the grey mouse, Mustard, the yellow dog. They are all portrayed as brave, but Custard is immediately called cowardly. This creates a dramatic irony for the readers who suspect something more beneath the surface. Let's look at Custard's physical description. Custard is described with powerful imagery, sharp teeth, spikes, scales, fireplace like mouth. These images make him look terrifying, yet he behaves timidly. This contrast teaches an important lesson. Appearance does not determine character. Always mention imagery and contrast in the exam when you're getting questions like this. Now comes exaggerated bravery. Belinda is brave as a barrel full of bears. This is deliberate exaggeration, literally a hyperbole. Similarly, the pets chase lions, everyone act fearless. Meanwhile, Custard asks for a safe cage. This strengthens the ironic contrast because the characters who are supposed to be timid naturally are here over exaggerated into someone being very brave and heroic. But on the other hand, we are having Custard the dragon, whose real nature is to be a fearless, heroic dragon. But here, the contrast is he's totally opposite to the expectation. Now, teasing begins in the poem. Belinda and the pets mock Custard the dragon. They laugh, tease, and call him cowardly. This reflects real life behavior. You see, people often mock those who appear vulnerable, but the poet subtly criticizes this behavior. The teasing continues. Repetition is emphasized over here. Why? Because Custard's perceived fear, others' overconfidence. This prepares the readers for a dramatic reversal. This technique is common in narrative poems. Now the story reaches its turning point when the conflict is introduced. A pirate suddenly enters the poem. His description is very funny. Pistols in both hands, cutlass in teeth, black beard, wooden leg. This creates tension. The mood shifts from humor to danger in the poem. Now observe everyone's reaction. The supposedly brave characters panic. Belinda cries for help. Mustard runs away. Ink hides and Blink hides. This dramatic irony is the heart of the poem. Paul's bravery collapses in real danger. Now the real hero appears. Custard suddenly becomes very fierce. This sounds imagery like clatter clank, which creates vivid action. This is the climax of the story when Custard shows real courage when it matters. And it is the first real act of courage for Custard. Let's see what is the outcome of this action. The pirate shoots, but he misses. Custard defeats him easily. This exaggerated ending maintains humor while confirming Custard's heroism because literally Custard eats him. Now, what happens? Course, appreciation follows. The same characters who once mocked Custard now praise him. This reflects human nature. People quickly change their opinions after success. Irony continues in the poem as the others claim they would have been braver than Custard. But Custard, on the other hand, modestly agrees. This humility makes him truly heroic. Now comes the ending of the poem. Life returns to normal where Custard still asks for safety because again he is being bullied by the other animals. This shows real courage doesn't require constant display. It appears when necessary. Now let's discuss the themes of the poem. The main themes that we can see in this poem are true courage. Action defines bravery, not words. Then comes the appearances versus reality. The fierce dragon, initially who is very timid, but when the real problem occurs, he is the one who rises to the occasion and defeats the villain. And then comes the humility. Custard remains modest, that shows his real heroic character. And finally, mockery and bullying. Others ridicule him unnecessarily, which is a wrong thing. People often ridicule what they don't understand. Now, let's move on to the tone and the mood of the poem. The tone is humorous, light-hearted, and satirical. Humor makes the serious ideas easier to accept. Literary devices used in the poem are the poet uses a simile to compare Belinda brave as a barrel full of bears, and then comes the alliteration, where is the repetition of the first initial consonant sound is there, like clutter and clank. Then repetition is used in the word rilio trilio throughout the poem that you can see in the poem. And then comes the imagery, where the description of the dragon and the other sensory visualization is presented in the poem that we can easily identify. And finally comes the irony. The coward becomes the hero of the story. Now let's see the rhyming scheme used in the poem. The rhyming scheme is very typical one because it is following AABB pattern. For example, house, mouse, wagon, dragon. This is a ballad style rhythm, so there is nothing new in this rhyming scheme. Now moving on to the character analysis of the poem. The most important character analysis that we can get in exam point of view is the character analysis of Custard the dragon, who initially appears to be very cowardly, but actually he is the one who is the bravest one. Why? Because when the real problem occurs, he raises up to the occasion and fights and defeats the pirate. And he is a humble hero because at the end of the poem, when everybody said that they would have been more braver than Custard, instead of rebuking or instead of giving an answer, he timidly, quietly, modestly accepted. Yeah, that is true. That shows his modesty and that shows his humble, heroic characteristics. He is the central moral symbol, literally, in the poem. And then comes the other characters like Belinda and others who are boastful, mock Custard, and they panic in danger. They represent the superficial bravery who actually pretend to be brave in front of others and judge people. They don't do anything really. It's like empty vessels make more noises. Now let's critically appreciate the poem. Why the poem is so special? Because humor with moral depth is given in the poem. Parody of heroic ballad can be seen here. Memorable rhythm and rhyme, which makes it very easy for even a small child to enjoy the poem because the poem is having that musical beat whenever the rhyming scheme is followed, right? It combines entertainment with an insightful message that we need to understand. After critical appreciation, let's now focus on some important exam questions that might come in your exams. So, prepare for the questions like why is Custard called coward? How does he prove his bravery? Theme of true courage, humor in the poem, character analysis or character sketch of Custard. These can be some important questions, but please understand whenever it comes to a poetry, you make sure that you are well prepared for the questions like critical appreciation of the poem, line by line explanation or stanza wise explanation, the literary devices, and thematic analysis and character analysis of the poem. These are the most important areas. Then comes the message of the poem. Don't judge by appearance. Real courage appears in crisis. True heroes remain humble till the end. So these are the messages that we learn from the poem. Now coming to one important critical quote inside. Literary critic Anthony Burgess praised Nash's style for blending informal language with poetic rhythm. In case if a question appears in your exam related to this, kindly please explain the poem's conversational tone, how simple the poem is, yet it gives a very insightful message to the readers, and the readers also easily understand it. The Tale of Custard the Dragon is a very simple poem. It is using a very conversational tone that we use in our day to day life, but still we can identify that how it is reflecting the human behaviors. So this poem teaches us true courage is revealed in actions, not in words. Appearances doesn't define characters, and humility enhances heroism. And perhaps the biggest lesson, the quietest person may sometimes be the bravest. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching till the end of the video. If you felt like this video was helpful, kindly please hit the like, share and subscribe button and see you soon in the next video.